Hello. Today is dark and stormy. Reality check is about friendships in class. So, newsflash, life is not a John Hughes movie. Life is not pretty in pink. It's a lot more complicated having a cross-class friendship. I'm a pretty feral human. If I have to cohabitate with others, I quickly build up this sort of caged, watched animal fierce resentment and snappishness like a porcupine on PCP. It's not pretty. I shouldn't live with other people, especially if the other person holds all of the financial power and owns the dwelling. I mean, I'd rather live in my car than even equally share living expenses with another person at this point. I'm not afraid of abandonment. I'm afraid of captivity and exploitation. That's my fear in any relationship that I'm in. I'm afraid of being used. I'm afraid of someone systematically breaking down my boundaries. There was this great article on everyday feminism that I'm going to link to in the description box about setting boundaries after abuse. And it confirmed for me some things that I had thought about and theorized and written about in my journal that I thought, well, maybe I'm sending off these big time signals of like, don't come near me, because I've been hurt so much that I don't trust anyone. And healthy people read that and they stay away. And so the only people who actually come to be friends with me are people who don't care about those signals, who ignore those signals, who basically harass me with their friendship. And so that gave me kind of a skewed idea that everybody out there was out to get me, because the only people who were approaching me were people who were unhealthy. The few times that I've had friendships with healthy people, these have been the friendships that they don't take a lot of work, but then I'll have friendships with people that take just enormous amounts of emotional work, and like there's always some sort of like a conflict that we're trying to negotiate, and it gets me exhausted to the point where I just don't even want to be around people. They take up all of the energy that I have for being with other people. Unhealthy relationships are enormously draining, and I feel like because those relationships have taken up the bulk of my time for the bulk of my life, that I've dropped the ball on actual healthy relationships because they just didn't take that much work. The kind of relationships that I actually want to have. Also, there's a problem just starting up a friendship with another person. Being able to talk freely about yourself to someone else is an invisible privilege, especially when most of a person's friendships are with others of equal standing or equal power, privilege, that kind of thing. Being able to get to know someone you're interested in can be just sort of really casual stroll rather than this inhaled breath creep through a minefield, unsure what word will blow up in your face and reveal everything. My favorite blog about classism is Class Rage Speaks on Tumblr. There's a great post of Love and Money that I'm going to quote from here. Money is a problem for me, and everything involving money is a problem for me. And everything involves money. I am always thinking about money. It is socially acceptable to joke and stereotype and make derisive comments about poor people, and this hurts me, personally and in terms of my life options. People treat me differently when they know that I am poor, and so in this place and time, I am unable to be myself fully and openly without fear. Comparison is another way that classism sneaks into our thought processes and daily life. Also, our privileging of charitable or rescuing behavior as heroic and beyond reproach, where permission isn't necessary to bestow charity on someone that you see as unfortunate or to interfere in their life, and refusing to see and discuss the potential for manipulation, control, and abuse in a relationship wherever giving takes place, and shaming people for not asking for or accepting help, or thinking that there's something wrong in that. It's perfectly valid and okay to refuse to accept gifts and charity. No is just as acceptable in this situation as any other. Friendships where the other person has more power than me are uncomfortable for me. That being said, it's not likely I'll find anyone on a level with me, since most people too disabled to work who are invisibly homeless don't get out much. And neither do I. I hate relationships that take enormous time and work from me, where I'm doing the emotional heavy lifting and the only one willing to learn about and talk about classism and inequality. I hate it when I can't even talk assertively about the power imbalance and how I feel about things the other person says or does when I'm around, or even describe the other person's actions without that person getting defensive and flipping out. And I'll quote again from the article of Love and Money. It, meaning class differences, even limits who I can love and who can love me, who I can form relationships with, and who is willing to form relationships with me. How much I feel safe opening up myself to others, and how much my openness is accepted and welcomed. My class, my financial status, insinuates itself into every aspect of every relationship I have, and if it is not or cannot be dealt with appropriately there, that relationship cannot exist. Being with anyone outside of my economic class requires a substantial and ongoing effort, and I cannot feel safe and comfortable with someone who is not willing or able to pick up their end of that effort. I cannot date or become close in any way to someone who casually makes classist jokes, who resists being called out for classist statements, who doesn't believe that class is an important issue, who is insensitive or dismissive of money issues in my own life, or who becomes uncomfortable in discussions of my poverty or their privilege. When class is such an important part of my identity and experience, it becomes necessary to explicitly say that who I date or form any kind of relationship with is absolutely dependent upon their attitudes towards class and classism. For my sanity and security, for the sake of an emotionally healthy relationship, for the mere fact of wanting to be with someone who treats me as a human being with valid and real experiences, my close relationships have to be very carefully formed. And this, I have learned, is true for me as well, and I learned the hard way. It was very painful. Many, if not most, of the people I meet with privilege aren't that comfortable talking about it, and may not have had friendships where that was necessary. But we can't be friends without those conversations. We can't be friends if you're not even willing to hear how I feel about the things that you say and do. If you're unwilling for me to even describe the reality of the situation to you, and respond in defensive or aggressive ways. If you feel uncomfortable about that, that's understandable, that's human. And know that I'm at least that uncomfortable in every relationship I ever have. Plus knowing that so far everyone I meet right now is more economically privileged than I am. And until now, no one knew anything of the regular humiliations and struggles I go through just to survive. And that's uncomfortable. I go into new situations guarded and on edge, even more so than I did when I was middle class. I had a little bit of social anxiety then meeting new people, but it's nothing to what I feel now. Because I know that there are certain realities about me that when other people learn them can cause them to treat me in ways that disrespect my innate humanity and worth. Not everyone is going to have the kind of humility that comes from a place of strength and courage that's necessary to have a relationship with someone who has substantially less power than them. Not everyone can be respectful enough to avoid pity or trying to fix me without asking permission, and to suspend judgment of my choices whose results they don't have to live with. That's reality. That's okay. The friendships that I cherish and value the most are the ones where weeks and months may elapse between our brief interchanges. You may not even know how much you mean to me. You might be surprised because of how few our interactions have been, but how easy, freeing, and even healing they have been for me. You're genuinely interested in the things about me that I've put the most time and energy into, what I know and think and write, feel and say. You encourage what I love to do, not because you want it for yourself or want to hijack it for your needs, but because you just honestly like it or maybe get a kick out of how much I enjoy those things. Because I tell you, when I enjoy something, I go whole hog. I'm wholehearted in my enjoyment when I do find it, because they are so rare. Andrew Solomon said, I tend to find ecstasy in ordinary joys because I did not expect them to be ordinary to me. And I find that true too. You encourage me in the things that I love, even if you don't care for them, because it's never about that with you. And I feel the same way. You don't bat an eye when I withdraw and isolate to take care of myself, or when I come out of my little hidey hole. You've never had a problem with me saying no to you. And you never tried to fix things or make me feel better. Sometimes when I tell people how much their validation and support helps me, they tell me, I feel like I don't do anything. But you do what for some people is the hardest thing. You refrain from doing and saying the things that so many people thoughtlessly do, that so many of us are just socialized to do in response to other people's pain. Things that make that pain and that struggle worse for me. Above all, you, the friends that I value most, you listen and you let me be me. That's what I want. Thank you for watching.